We had the problem that domestic burglary was rising very, very fast. So the government decided that we needed to test predictive policing methods. It was not the case that we wanted to find domestic burglars. It was just how can we prevent domestic burglary in our state? Where do we have these correlations also, but where the crimes did not have happened to that time?
Welcome again, dear strategists, and hello again, dear Professor Felix Bode. Welcome again, and could you please shortly elaborate a little on what is your background and what we are going to be talking about today, as the thumbnail will be Minority Report of Niederrheinisch.
Yeah, thank you for the interview and the invitation. My name is Felix Bode. I'm a professor for criminology at a police university in North Rhine-Westphalia. It's the police university where young police officers get to learn how police works. And I'm responsible for the part of criminology in this university. Yeah, it's a school for educated appliance. Yeah. And regarding my background, I was several years, I think it was 17 years, a police officer, means on normal duty. And I studied criminology and did my PhD in criminology. And so I had the chance to get on this professorship. So since 2019, yeah, that's right. I'm at the university for criminology. Yeah.
And the topic we found each other basically about was your pioneering work in Germany regarding predictive policing. Could you elaborate a little on what that exactly means and, yeah, how basically you came to research this field and, yeah.
Yeah, at the time when I was a police officer, I was already studying criminology and I did my PhD at this time. I was at a project regarding predictive policing. So we started in 2016 this project in the terms or in the background of a rising domestic burglary, yeah, especially in North Rhine-Westphalia. We had the problem that domestic burglary was rising very, very fast. So the government decided that we needed to test predictive policing methods in general, and we did this project and I was involved and was the leader of the science part, meaning I was responsible for finding out which algorithms are possible used that could work, what data could be put in, and yeah, to find out, does it really work or does it not work, and can it help the police to prevent domestic burglary? It was not the case that we wanted to find domestic burglars. It was just how can we prevent domestic burglary to get a little bit lower than the rates we had at the time at 2016. And this project was about 3 years. So I had 3 years time to evaluate and to test and to find out and to talk to other scientists, to other police officers about the different methods, the algorithms that were used. And yeah, it was a very, very interesting time. We made a lot of experience about predictive policing. Yeah.
I think what we should especially put the finger on here is that it is not about, yeah, we might have misled the audience a little with the Minority Report because, of course, in Germany, data protection is still very, very a highly regarded asset or right. And therefore, it is not about profiling, but it is rather about analyzing where regarding hotspots and because regarding or extrapolating from that to anticipate where further burglaries might occur in a regarding area of operation or area of interest, and then basically to police or patrol areas more effectively. Is that correct? So.
Yes, exactly. That was the purpose of the project. due to, as you said, the strong data protection rules we have in Germany. We were not predicting people or special crimes. It was about predicting areas where we could send patrols, units to control this area, so that the high domestic burglaries could decrease. That was the purpose on the project. Yeah. Normally it's a very strategic instrument. I guess I could describe it as that. And yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you kindly gave me some of your regarding written works, and I will be cutting in one or two of these examples. You got it pretty much on point in every regard after a really short time. So, could you describe the process a little bit more in depth, or is that basically already how can we imagine that basically like these cross references? How does that basically work with the prediction?
It's quite simple, and it's not a secret. If you understand how Amazon and all these big players in the shopping world works work, and then you can understand how predictive policing is working, because it's the same. It's about correlation between data, yeah, and I take the example of Amazon, for example. If you buy something, Amazon recommends you different products, and is analyzing your data, what you have shopped the last weeks, years. They're predicting you might be interested in product A, B, or C. And that's the same if you're doing predictive policing. We are analyzing and normally just the police data, meaning the crime data. And then we are predicting where could the next crime happen, especially domestic burglary or commercial burglary. These are crimes that can be predicted very well regarding an area. And it's the same. It's just about correlation between the data. For example, a crime is committed, or crimes, in this case, domestic burglary, are committed in an area which is very wealthy, which is near the German Autobahn or a highway, and where are registered luxury cars, for example. If that is a correlation at the current time, then we can predict where in this area of our city do we have other settings with near the Autobahn or highway, wealthy area, and highly or luxury cars registered. And where it's not a crime, where does not a domestic burglary happened. This is the case how it works. So we just analyze the data, we look for correlation, and then we look in our city or in our state, where do we have these correlations also, but where the crimes did not have happened to that time. Yeah.
Okay, so but basically what you're saying is when we are talking about repetition of these patterns, then basically you're very likely, and it was really an impressive targeting as I saw it, and we'll cut it in regardingly. But when we are talking about, it could be an individual, but rather it is like a robbery band or some, and if they, of course, then made a burglary there in this district of the city, and they might do it again next week, then you are highly likely to catch them. But first follow-up question would then be, is there any plans so far to expand these prediction models on other kinds of not misdemeanors but felonies in the near future?
Yes, I guess so. I'm not in the project anymore, but they transferred the project of predictive policing. It's called Scala in Northern Westphalia, and there are different names in different states in Germany where they have similar programs or similar software that is used. And they are not only predicting domestic burglary. They're predicting currently, I think it's commercial burglary, it's about car theft or expensive parts on cars like wheels or navigation systems. These crimes can also be very good predicted, meaning predicted in which area the next crimes could be happen. Yeah. And depending on the city, there are special, I think, crimes like, for example, in Cologne, I think you can easily predict where bicycle theft would be likely to be happen in the next week, because a lot of people are riding bicycles. Yeah, and in different cities, it depends on which is typical for the city and what problems are there. And I think it depends on the city. The normal crime is domestic burglary, commercial burglary, something like that. Yeah, I think robbery is currently very seldom, at least in Germany. Um, the the rates are going down regarding robbery because people are more digitalized. The crimes are more digitalized. Nobody is robbing any stores anymore with a gun. It's more easier to do it online via the World Wide Web. So we're having a transfer to the digital world regarding those crimes. Those are hard to predict. I guess they can't predict it that easily because they're in digital space. Yeah. But there are crimes that's still happening, and depending on the city where you live, they have different prediction models. Like, for example, bicycle theft could be predicted in Cologne. And I think they will still think which could be a good crime to predict, because not every crime can be predicted precisely. There are crimes that are happening a lot. For example, if you have drug crimes, yeah, there are a lot of drug crimes. The rates are enough to have, or we have enough good data on drug crimes. The problem is drug crimes are controlled by the police. We only get those crimes cleared up when we are patrolling, or whatever. Then we register these persons, we register the crimes, and if you don't do anything, we don't get any drug crimes registered, because nobody comes to the police and says, here's a drug crime I want to register. Yeah.
Yeah.
So predicting drug crime is useless. Yeah, because the model or the algorithm would say, for example, if I have done a lot of patrolling work at the local train station, and then I have a lot of drug crimes at the train station, and then the algorithm says, hey, go to the train station, the next drug crimes will be there. And the algorithm is right. Mathematically, it's right, but it's useless for the police. So not every crime is good for predicting, but some are here.
Yeah, quite interesting what you mentioned regarding it going more digital. I recently saw a longer documentary about that. Basically, the Yakuza in Japan are massively using influence or going more legitimate, because the problem is that the younger generations, the so-called otaku, which are proficient in these kind of crimes, they are not really into the rituals and everything, and basically say, yeah, we can do that ourselves, while the more old school mobsters have not really the affinity for these kinds. Um, yeah, very interesting what you elaborated recently, because yeah, if we imagine for like, okay, then we just stand two cars of police into that forest forever, and yeah, if we it is the only place we are controlling and we catch one person there, of course the algorithm will tell us regardingly, and if you check you will find. So
Yeah.
but one last thing to phase out, if once again have to, as I'm not in your profession, I always have to a little bit, how to say, um, not apologize myself, but basically explain that I'm also in the business of having to think as the bad guys do to provide better security. And when I now take a little leap to our analysis series on the 7th October attacks on Israel, we also had there much surveillance that was fed or basically analyzed by AI. And basically, what the Palestinians did was that they regularly held regarding protests on the border fence, and never anything happened beyond that. And then basically, when the attacks came, the AI told them, yeah, this was always like this, and there should not be anything happening. And then, of course, they got caught off guard. And so basically, when your models are applied, the moment one would then basically now know about these parameters, if he just basically hopped town every time and went to, for example, not the wealthy areas anymore, but more rather in the vacation season into the middle income classes, and not near the autobahn, but rather near some woods and with an e-bike or something. I hope I don't give advice and no one of that see this. So, is there any possibility to basically fine tune this in the future anymore, or what do you think? Where will this go? I know you have no stakes in Palantir that is now being employed in Baden-Württemberg, but what are your general thoughts and outlooks on this topics in the future?
I think it's quite hard to predict those crimes. For example, if someone wants or knows the system, the algorithm, he could use it for his crime, for example. Yeah, that's right. And luckily, the most offenders aren't that intelligent or smart to have their own algorithm and to analyze the police, where they're patrolling at the moment, what software are they using. Luckily, the most aren't that smart. Yeah, but you can use it for the wrong purpose. Yes, of course, and I think it's hard for the police to prevent such actions. Because it's very seldom action. If one or two, for example, offenders would do something like this, yeah, to think, where's the police currently controlling, where have the last crimes been happening, where should we commit our crime, then the machine or the algorithm can't predict those, for example, two yeah, people who are thinking like this, because the machine, like Amazon, is just collecting mass data, and the mass is happening here, or the main crimes are happening in that area, and if there are one or two not in that area, the machine automatically regrets or neglects those yeah, data sets, for example. Yeah, we are seeing this. We are seeing, for example, there's a crime happening, for example, in the northern part of the city, in a special area, and or two, for example. But we are looking for, in with the algorithms, or you are looking for the the connection, and if there's one or two crimes, you don't see a big connection. So I think it's very hard to train a machine that the machine could also look for several things, like if there's happening a crime in this area, it's very untypical police report, we have to look there. Or, for example, this is quite hard because we are analyzing the mass data, the very big data, and looking for correlation. And correlation needs a lot of data and a lot of crimes so that we can say we have a good correlation. And if one or two are out of the box in this way, they could use it for the wrong part or for the wrong purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, additionally, we have the federalism issues that in the past there were many reports that basically when one hopped state lines, basically there were cooperation problems because
Yeah.
I don't know if that changed so far, but in long story short, it was so that basically there needed to be a regarding request for cooperation, or there needed to be some indices that this and this is organized and everything. So it would be very hard to collude the data on the one hand. But yeah, long story short, to phase out, I think, especially with the strained manpower, you basically did a great job providing, assisting to not a force multiplier, but to conserve the regarding resources in these regards. And thanks again for your duties in these regards.
Yeah. I think also this might be a reason. I'm not involved in Palantir and software that works like Palantir because I think they're using personal data in such software. And I think that would be the case because then I can more precisely predict which person or which groups, for example, are committing a crime or will commit a crime in the near future. And with this software, I can maybe more easily predict such crime. But with the predicting policing methods we have currently, and it's all over the world, also the United States have predictive policing methods that are for an area, for example. They just work with the crime data and no personal data. But in the United States, they have a heat list, for example, and this is much more precise, of course. Yeah, but we have the data protection rules in Germany, so it's not easy. And yeah, I think this is the way they go now because they're seeing their limitations. If we just predict for an area, yes, we can predict crimes for an area and we can prevent those crimes in this area, but it's not that precise if instead if we have personal data in our software. Yeah.
Rightfully so. I mean, with Dr. Hoffmeister of Wemo, I also already had it about many problems AI sometimes delivers. There are already people who discovered they are on a no-fly list, and it was basically an error of, same name or something like that. We have it with so many companies and customer services by now where basically the person then is telling you, yeah, the AI said so, I can't overrule that and everything. And especially, yeah, where do you set the point? I'm not quite sure. I mean, theoretically, the German police now also would have the possibility to plant something on a PC and then charge the person for it, but I'm not too deep into it how it is regarding can I plant drugs on a person and everything. Okay, we recently had a case there that basically the person can, or the police officer can't be judged for that basically. But where I was going to is basically, yeah, when do you start to arrest the person? Because just because the data is saying, okay, he might commit something in next week or something, I think you rather have to go, okay, the moment he gets a weapon or something like that, that would be the moment to interfere. But I think the tools are quite helpful in these regards. And as with all, we just have to see that it's not only machines making decisions in the end, and that it has a human oversight, a rational human oversight.
And it's very interesting how AI is dominating now this field. I think so. At the time when I was from 2016 to 2019 and 2020, the project there was no big AI. Yeah, we just did normal correlation, and it was quite hard to find correlation. I think nowadays it's more easier when using such software to find correlations or to predict areas, or if we use personal data, more easy to predict persons or crimes by special persons. Yeah.
Highly fascinating, yeah, and that is definitely helpful. But as also elaborated with Dr. Hoffmeister, we still have, like with the bigger LLMs, like over 50% hallucinations of, yeah, just standard data, and the human oversight is quite, or remains quite important. And what he said, for example, is that they got very productive in regards of coding, but basically the bottleneck just moved because you still have it checked by a human, and basically, okay, they can produce much more code, but basically the oversight checking is not a new bottleneck by that.
Yeah, and it's very important that the humans have to check at the end if the prediction uh, does not mean if it's a person or an area doesn't matter, because in our project we already made the experience that a lot of predictions we made were mathematically was right or correct, for example, but when the person who works in the city as a police officer, as an officer, sees this prediction, um, sometimes they were wrong because they said, "Oh, that's not right the prediction because yesterday I arrested a person in that area, and your data is from last week, so this prediction is useless at the moment, for example." Because the data is always a little bit old, because if you as a police officer write down your report, the report gets checked, then the data gets to the main server that has to be analyzed. You have, even if you are very very fast, you have always a little bit of delay in
Yeah.
it. And the biggest problem we had in the project was, and I think that is also for software like Palantir or whatever that uses personal data, is wrong or false data. And if I put in the wrong data or the false data, means garbage in, garbage out, the algorithm is right. Yeah, it's just a machine or
Yeah.
AI or whatever. Um, then the prediction is not right. And then I might prosecute the false persons or the wrong area. I'm controlling the wrong area because someone has just made bad data in the report, because, for example, it was very late and he wants to go home, and wrote a very bad report with very bad data in it, no correct time settings or whatever. Then the machine uses this time data, these stamps, and predicts something that is not clear or not exact, precise. And this is a big problem. And this, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know it exactly, but I think it's the same problem if I use personal data. If I put in personal data in my police report, and it's not the exact name, or the date of birth is not correct or whatever, then the machine correlates something that might be wrong, and then somebody is doing for example arrest because of wrong data, and that is not very good.
Yeah, there would have been to be implemented many safeguards, and I'm pondering at the moment from the one side with Dr. Hofmeister, we said it would be great, especially for the army in the future, to have something like a battle management system, because if one platoon leader is reporting you this and the other that and everything, you had such a flood of information. There's a reason staffs have dozens, hundreds of people, but to keep that actual on a regarding situational awareness card, wow. So AI can help with that, but especially in your regards, yeah, you would have to implement many, how to say, yeah, safeguards, and especially identify or be identifiable who entered what, because if we talk now about, yeah, some moles in data and everything, basically one account could screw your whole prediction system very
Yeah,
easily.
yeah,
Interesting
definitely.
things ahead.
So you need humans that check if is the data correct, who's writing the reports. Yeah, right.
Thank you very much for these fascinating elaborations. We
Yeah.
will talk, or we'll stay in touch and might talk again.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.